Would you sacrifice your honor to marry a duke? Today Reven will tell you the story, Betrayal of Dignity. One bright sunny day, in the forest, there was a horse carriage running. The girl gently reminded her younger sister, "You absolutely cannot make a scene this time, Alice. Do you understand?" The girl named Alice replied, "But that last soiree was just so incredibly dull. I couldn't help it." This is Alice Verdier, the second daughter of Viscount Verdier. Alice shrugged innocently and added, "And how was I know a few glasses of sherry would get me so tipsy? Anyhow, I'm certain this time will be much more lively. What with you there?" The girl suddenly smiled. Alice continued, "You agree, don't you, Chloe?" "I am being sincere," Chloe Verdier replied. She is the eldest daughter of Viscount Verdier. Since childhood, she have had a disability in her legs, so walking has some difficulty. Chloe added, "You really have to behave yourself this time. This ball is hosted by none other than Duke This. You have to find yourself a potential suitor." Alice interrupted, "I know, I am well aware that my betrothal is the only thing that can save our family from drowning in debt. Still," she hesitantly continued, "I've always hoped to find someone who would sweep me off my feet." Alice sighed. Chloe looked at her sister with sad eyes and guilt. Chloe replied, "I'm sorry, Alice. If only my leg wasn't in such a state." Alice shook her head at the self-reproach, even though it was not her fault at all. Chloe thought to herself, "I wish I didn't have to place such a heavy burden on my younger sister. This is all my." Meanwhile, Alice stood up. She ran to her beloved sister and softly called, "Chloe, what could you possibly have to feel sorry for?" She hugged her sister tightly and said, "If anyone is to blame, it is our father for loving mother so much that he spent his entire fortune on her medical bills and completely failed to manage his." Alice scolded her father with a smile. "Think of what happened 3 years ago. Despite our family's precarious circumstances, he allowed Duke This's army to use our castle." Chloe was startled when her sister mentioned Grand Duke This. Alice continued, without noticing Chloe's wistfulness, "He may be our father, but I can't tell if he possesses a heart of gold or if he's just a fool. Have you heard the rumors about Duke This? None of them are good," Alice said with an annoyed. "Grand Duke This is a hero who has contributed to his country, a person known for being cold-blooded and cruel." Alice scoffed. "A young duke who led his soldiers to great victory? Don't make me laugh. Word has it that he's fathered several illegitimate children with his mistresses, only to have them executed in secret. He's also said to have a horrible temperament. If you get on his bad side, he will completely ruin you, regardless of any title you may hold. Many seem to think it'd have been better if he'd perished in battle." Suddenly, Chloe interrupted Alice. "Alice, considering our family's standing, we're lucky to have even been invited to this event." Alice replied, "Even so, he's not the kind of person we should be associating with. There are ominous rumors floating about, and we have no idea what his intentions are." Alice continues to whine, "I just hope we don't run into him while we're enjoying the lantern. Oh, but I suppose we will have to greet him since he's the host." Hearing this, Chloe was full of thoughts and sorrow. She thought to herself, "You cannot allow yourself to be afraid, Chloe." Verdier estate 3 years earlier, Viscount Verdier, the lord of a small castle, gladly opened the gates for the imperial army as it retreated from battle. A girl with a cane limps through the snowy winter sky. There was a buzz of discussion around. "So it is true, Viscount Verdier's eldest daughter is a cripple," another replied. "How is she to attend to anyone in such a state?" Someone added, "Won't she just be in the way?" Chloe tried to pretend she didn't hear those rumors. Someone spoke up, "Leave her be. The cripple just wants to help." Chloe gives first aid to injured soldiers. This scene was observed by someone standing far away. The older man spoke up, "I've no complaints. She's a right feast for the eyes, that one." The other person replied, her face to be decent at least." Night fell again at Viscount Verdier's castle. In front of Chloe's room, the servant said, "His lordship has requested you leave the wounded in the care of the servants." Chloe replied, "I understand." Sitting absent-mindedly on the bed, Chloe thought, "Did I cause father to worry? Still, I imagine the pain they are experiencing must have them feeling on edge." Outside, although night had fallen, the fire was still red, and the soldiers had not yet gone to sleep. Chloe curiously approached the window and thought to herself, "I was always taught it is the duty of the nobility to come to the aid of the destitute and the infirm." There was a loud voice shouting, "Attention!" Chloe was startled. Someone approached and shouted, Greet your commander. A man with platinum hair is standing solemnly in front of his army. Chloe thought in amazement, that's the commander? Earlier today I received news of my father Wilhelm von This's passing. He was beheaded by the enemy who has chosen to display his head on their castle walls. Suddenly the Grand Duke spoke up and pointed at a soldier. Do you wish to return home? The soldier was startled and afraid to look at the Grand Duke. Before he could speak, this added, it doesn't seem like you do. The startled soldier stammered in response, no sir, I do. My wife recently gave birth to our child without me by her side. I wish nothing more than to see the two of them. And you? The Grand Duke asked another person. He replied, I worry for my mother whom I had to leave sick and alone at home. Another person spoke up. I must work to support my young brother so he doesn't starve. Another person said, my betrothed awaits my return. Standing high up witnessing this scene, Chloe sadly thought, I can hear the anguish overflowing in their voices. The Grand Duke continued, speaking in an authoritative and sympathetic tone. As you can see, there are countless reasons why we must end this war and return to our homes. The same goes for me. I haven't been able to recover my father's body, let alone hold a funeral to put him to rest. He continued to reassure the troops. However, we must remember that it is not through God's will that a war is won or lost, which is exactly why I refuse to back down. I shall do everything in my power to lead my soldiers to victory. His voice filled with determination, the Grand Duke emphasized, after all, this is a matter of house, this pride and dignity. That's right, this man is Damien Ernst von This. End of chapter 1. Chapter 2 begins. I shall do everything in my power to lead my soldiers to victory, the Grand Duke continued to speak. Damien Ernst von This, Chloe thought to herself about that name. The Grand Duke finished with the last sentence to reassure the troops. It is now up to you to transform all of the desperation and longing you just showed me into action. Then came the cheers of determination from the army. Chloe on the window saw that scene and secretly admired. He managed to boost the soldiers' morale in an instant. The soldiers all hailed the name This. Suddenly, he felt like someone was watching. The Grand Duke glanced up at Chloe's window. She was startled when she saw those eyes directed at her. Chloe immediately sat down and hid behind the window. Did our eyes just meet? Chloe thought worriedly. She secretly looked back to see if he had left, and saw the cheers of the Grand Duke's army turning and leaving. Chloe up here breathed a sigh of relief. I would never be able to do something like that after hearing of my father's passing, she thought sadly. Then Chloe silently prayed, please, allow those soldiers to return home, so they may look after their loved ones, that their languish may bear fruit in battle. She didn't know that down here, the previous Grand Duke was still looking up at her room window with many thoughtful thoughts. A beautiful sunny day at Viscount Verdier's castle. Chloe secretly looked around. Is no one out yet? I should hurry and get back before everyone wakes up. Suddenly there was a voice calling, Lady Chloe? It turned out to be Chloe's close servant Jill. Startled by the call, Chloe couldn't hold her cane firmly. She cried out and was about to fall. But luckily the other guy quickly caught Chloe. She said with relief, you saved me. After speaking, Chloe suddenly smiled brightly, making the servant a bit confused. Finally the guy also spoke. Where are you headed so early in the morning? I believe it was only. Before she could finish speaking, Chloe spoke up. I'm going to gather some medicinal herbs from isn't becoming of a noblewoman, especially one of your condition. Chloe seemed dumbfounded when she heard the heavy words. The Duke said, "Is this the same man I saw yesterday?" She thought in frustration. "How disrespectful." Chloe replied loudly, "I was only trying to help those who had set out for war to protect their families. I did not expect my title to become an issue. My late mother taught us that thought our family may be humble in rank. As nobles, it is our duty to come to the aid of those in need. That is the comfort expected of the nobility." "What a smart and brave girl," the Grand Duke replied. "The comportment of the nobility, you say?" "Chloe Verdier." He bent down and called her name and continued, "Has it never occurred to you that trying to do something beyond your abilities is not only selfish, it creates a nuisance to others? If you had heard the filthy jokes the men told as you hobbled around between them, would you still be able to keep your head held so high and talk about the comportment of noblewomen? What if the Viscount had overheard? Were I him, I would have served the heads of anyone who dared sully my daughters." After speaking, he raised his hand to lift her hair and continued, "Those soldiers have seen dozens of their comrades slaughtered in battle. Do you know what that does to a man? What's more, it isn't fully light. Yet here you are wandering around in a forest with that leg of yours. If something were to happen to you, who would be to blame?" With the last sentence, he moved closer to look at Chloe. She opened her eyes wide in panic and looked at the Grand Duke in front of her. Freed from This's hands, she said, "This land has been part of the Verdier estate since long before I was born. No one may enter these grounds without permission. It is safe." Again, that sarcastic smile. "Safe?" Chloe replied loudly, "Yes, it is completely safe." He tried to take Chloe's stick and said, "Would you still babble such nonsense if I were to do this?" Chloe was startled. At that moment, the Grand Duke raised the stick, and Chloe stopped him. "What are you?" Then suddenly heard a noise. The Grand Duke used the stick to stab a snake to death. Pulling out his stick, he said, "There is always danger lurking in the forest." Chloe was still shocked by the scene that had just happened. "You are reckless to think otherwise," the Grand Duke added. "It's damaged, but you should be able to make it back to the castle." After speaking, he returned the stick to Chloe. "No, thank you," Chloe replied. The Grand Duke smiled triumphantly. "I see you have a bit of temper. That's unexpected. Let me examine your leg." After saying that, he lifted Chloe's skirt to check. "Is it hereditary?" He startled Chloe. She shouted embarrassedly, "Why? Why must you insist on being so rude?" He stood up and replied, "You are much too sensitive. I was simply asking you a question, yet you mistook it for an attack. Allowing your emotions to prevail will only lead to defeat, Lady Chloe." Chloe suddenly spoke up. "I am not a soldier, Your Grace. I do not fight wars," the self-righteous Grand Duke said. "Life itself is war, especially for someone like you." Chloe countered, "That may be, but that is still no reason for you to pry into my life. I only wanted to give you advice. Your refusal to thank me tells me I've struck a nerve." He's like the devil himself, Chloe thought viciously. I couldn't have been more wrong about him. Gathering all her courage, Chloe continued, "Your Grace, with all due respect, I have two things I'd like to say to you." The Grand Duke nodded. "Be my guest," Chloe continued. "First, as for this cane that you've damaged, I'd like a replacement." This replied in agreement. "I'll have a word with the woodworker as soon as I return to the barracks." "No," Chloe replied. "I want a cane made from the birch trees that grows on the Thys estate." The Grand Duke frowned and replied, "What?" Chloe continued without answering that question. "I recall you saying yesterday that you will return victorious from the war, and?" Thys replied with a smile. Chloe continued, "Once you go back to Thys estate after this is all over, I'd like you to make me." At that moment, the Grand Duke reached out and touched Chloe's hair and said, "My lady." His eyes were filled with danger. "What if I were to give you something even better?" Chapter 3 ends here. Chapter 4 begins when the Grand Duke looks closely at Chloe after that statement and continues, "It seems to be your father. Definitely want something more." Shoving his hand away, Chloe said, "Which brings me to my second point. If my father has ever praised his daughters in front of you, it was purely out of fatherly love and thought. He adores his two daughters. He is not so out of touch with really that he'd forge your house Verdier is far below house this in rank. You are not the only one who'd prefer not to become involved with an impaired woman. The same is true of all men, I am sure." The Grand Duke continued, "Chloe, save your self-disparagement for your journals." "No," Chloe denied. As she turned to walk away, she said, There is no disparagement when it comes to the truth. I would like to make one thing clear. Although you are free to pity me, you have no right to assume that I am unhappy or that my life is a war. With such a surprised look on This's face, he did not expect her to say such things. Chloe continued, "Does that mean you are happy living as you are?" Chloe stopped and said the last sentence without turning to look at the Grand Duke. "Your life will never change." "Yes, I am content, living a peaceful, unchanging life in the land where I was born for the rest of my days." With a determined voice, Chloe said, "That to me is happiness." The Grand Duke's eyes seemed to have realized something. Chloe couldn't remember how she got back to the castle. After a conversation with Grand Duke all she knew was that the weather was very cold, enveloped her the whole way, like the snake I saw in the forest. Suddenly Jill called out, "Lady Chloe, Duke and his men have just left." Even though she was sick, Chloe still smiled and replied to Jill, "Thank you for letting me know, Jill." A long time later, Chloe returned to the forest. Returning to reality, Chloe and Alice arrived at the party hall, a magnificent flower castle belonging to Grand Duke Alice chirped again, "I cannot believe this castle used for the sole purpose of the Duke's entertainment, and for only one season of the year. It's ridiculously extravagant. Phew. I'm already exhausted." The two girls were so busy talking that they didn't notice a man standing in front of them. He called out, "Lady Alice Verdier." "Oh," Alice replied in surprise. "How wonderful to see you again, Lord Cormier." The boy bowed politely and invited Alice to dance. "Might I be so forward as to ask for the next dance?" Alice happily agreed, not forgetting to introduce, "Oh, this is my sister, Chloe." "It is an honor, Lord Cormier." The two bowed to each other. Lord Cormier said, "No, when it comes to meeting Lady Alice's sister, the honor is all mine." "Perhaps we could dance lot." Before he could finish his sentence, the boy realized the situation and quickly swallowed back what he was about to say with a shy expression. Chloe broke this awkward atmosphere with a social smile. She replied, "The sight of all these beautiful people dancing is a joy in itself, although I do appreciate the though." Accompanied by the melodious sound of the piano, Chloe looked at her dancing with Lord Cormier with a satisfied expression. She thought, "It seems everyone's forgotten about the scene Alice caused at the last ball. Count Cormier seems like a fine match for her. I have yet to hear anyone mention anything negative about him, and his intentions seem sincere. I'm glad. Does this mean I should offer a word of thanks to the Duke? I'd prefer to avoid him, if possible, but that wouldn't be proper." While sitting in quiet contemplation in the middle of a bustling party, Chloe suddenly asked herself, "Why on earth did he invite us here?" "It is because our father helped him 3 years ago." Has it never occurred to you that trying to do something beyond your abilities is not only selfish, it creates a nuisance to others? Chloe remembered the words the Grand Duke said to her 3 years ago. He didn't seem like someone who appreciates kindness. I hope he's completely forgotten who I am. So absorbed in her thoughts, Chloe didn't notice the appearance of the person she least expected to meet on the stairs. Only when someone says loudly, "Oh look, it is the Duke," Chloe was startled. What was even scarier was that the person was moving towards her. The Grand Duke has been standing in front of Chloe ever since. Standing up to show respect, Chloe greeted Grand Duke Her expression was now filled with worry. Responding to her worry was a calm voice. "It's been a while, Lady Chloe of House Verdier. I am greatly indebted to your father, the Viscount, for his assistance 3 years ago. I would have liked to thank him in person, but I've been much too busy. Thank you for accepting my invitation." The atmosphere right now is strange. Without looking at the Grand Duke, Chloe replied, "It is an honor to be here, Your Grace." Meanwhile, he glanced at Chloe's cane, then raised her hand in her surprise. This said, "If it's not too much, can I invite you to this dance?" Chloe looked at the man in front of her in surprise. End of chapter 4. Chapter 5. After that question from the Grand Duke, the crowd began to talk. What is going through His Grace's mind? Did he not notice her cane? Unlikely she must have done something to antagonize this house. Poor thing. Chloe looked down at the ground while clutching her dress. She thought to herself, this man hasn't changed a bit. She must have felt this was an invitation filled with contempt. Chloe P. My sincerest apologies, Your Grace. I'm afraid I'm not quite proficient enough to be your dance partner. The Grand Duke added, Are you turning me down because too many others have already asked you, and I might have to wait? As he spoke, he walked forward, startling Chloe. If not, I hope you won't refuse me, as I would very much like to dance with you. The Grand Duke concluded the last sentence. Chloe is full of sadness and awkwardness. Just then a man's voice rang out. Are you tormenting an innocent young woman again, Damien? The only prince of the Swanton Kingdom. He continued. Can't you see the poor girl's about to burst into tears? She's already declined your offer. It's not very gentlemanly to keep harassing her. Taking the role of the Grand Duke, the prince continued. Did you forget your manners after spending so much time on the battlefield? The Grand Duke replied calmly, asking a beautiful woman to dance isn't what I consider a breach of etiquette, and I assure you that she isn't the type to cry easily. As he spoke, he looked at Chloe. The prince looked speechless at this and sighed, then said to Chloe, I apologize on my cousin's behalf how uncouth of him. Chloe responded, with all due respect, Your Highness, I believe his grace was only concerning that would end up a wallflower due to my condition. Please rescind your apologies. Oh, the prince immediately had a different view of Chloe. Meanwhile, Chloe Tien introduced herself. I am Chloe Verdier, the eldest daughter of Viscount Verdier. Ah, House Verdier, the prince replied, placing his hand on Chloe's shoulder. I'd like to meet the Viscount. I'm interested by who raised such a beautiful daughter to be so bold. Suddenly, Chloe bowed her head to admit her mistake. To escape that hand, apologies, Your Highness. I'm here today with my younger sister, not my father. Speaking of this, Chloe suddenly remembered something. Now that she remembered, Chloe hadn't seen Alice anywhere. I don't know where she went. Meanwhile, the prince said, Is that so? Then introduce her to me later. I'm rather busy at the moment. Come, Damien, wipe that surly look off your face. Not paying attention to the crown prince, Chloe began to panic, not knowing what she should do. She was afraid that her younger sister would caw. Meanwhile, the Grand Duke spoke up. Where is your sister, Lady Chloe? Chloe replied, The ballroom is so large, I cannot see her. I shall go look for her at once, if you will allow me. Chloe Verdier, the Grand Duke, called her name and placed his hand on Chloe's cane handle. Do you remember our agreement? Our secret little arrangement? Then he leaned his forehead against Chloe's. Regarding your cane, unless you are going to hand me a new one, please let go of my hand. Don't worry, you'll get it soon. So you've gotten yourself a new one, said while looking at the Grand Duke's cane. This man is insufferable, Chloe exclaimed. Still the same. The Grand Duke still smiled that dangerous smile. It seems you're too desperate to find your sister to scowl at me this time. Chloe looked down and satisfied.